Hey folks, Seth Liebson here. As we watch cities burn, statues being torn down, and calls to defund the police, if you haven't already, it may be time to think about personal protection. Guns Etc. has 10,200 square feet of guns, ammo, safes, and a staff that will work with you to find the best firearm for your situation. So stop by their huge store in Mesa or click on gunsetc.com and have access to over $400 million in firearms and accessories. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to 960 The Patriots YouTube channel. Welcome back and happy August 21st, 2020. Two curious things struck me about the Democratic convention that ended last night. What was not there? Unlike the convention 4 years ago, I did not see a group of moms or parents of those killed by police, the mothers of the movement, as they are called. They were prominent on stage in 2016. Michael Brown's mother, Trayvon Martin's inter alia, et alia. They weren't there this year, perhaps because the numbers were higher back when Barack Obama was president, perhaps for other reasons. Instead, there were dirge songs, funereal songs, particularly last night. Doom and gloom, as if America were dying. You saw that in the John Legend Common performance. You saw it in the saddest sack rendering of the national anthem I've ever seen, performed by the band formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. Go back and watch it if you missed it. It nearly answered its own question about does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. It answered no. And it answered it by the way it was sung and during its being sung. I'm really quite speechless about it. Saddest rendering I've ever seen. Why even have it performed if you're going to do that? Why come to bury America rather than praise it, as Shakespeare might have asked? The second thing that was not there, and it seemed a first to me, abortion. You'd have thought, even with the euphemism the issue has received, reproductive rights, you'd have heard a lot about the assault on them or the need to protect them. And the three likeliest to go there would have been the most prominent of the women speakers, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris. The issue, in the euphemism, got one mention and in a string, almost as a drive-by of other rights being mentioned, and it was from Hillary Clinton. I almost wonder if the issue or the moral cachet of it with the left has disappeared. If so, good riddance. It's hard to stand for Black lives and that movement at the same time. In many major cities, like New York City, for example, more black babies are aborted than born, by far. As Michael Novak has put it, abortion has swept through the black community like a scythe, cutting down every fourth member. Mark me delighted that one good thing to come out of recent wokeness was the removal of Margaret Sanger's name from their Manhattan facility. Now if we could just do away with the practice, too. But interesting, this Democratic Party didn't highlight it this week, as it usually does and has done at every convention since 1976. One might call those absences, the dogs that didn't bark. But how curious the scripting and production of the convention, with the Undertakers of America creating such a mortuary-like series of sentiments from the music last night, music which is usually upbeat, to the whiplash of listening to Jill Bennett tell us, quote, "There are those who want to tell us that our country is hopelessly divided, that our differences are irreconcilable, but that's not what I've seen. We're holding on to each other and coming together, finding mercy and love. Differences are precious and similarities, and our similarities in this nation still beat with kindness and courage. How do you reconcile those two?" Meanwhile, the following night, 2 nights ago, Barack Obama told us yet again we were living in dark times. Well, which is it? Is it the summer of love and getting along with one another and finding our differences reconcilable with mercy and love? Or is it the end of the world as we know it? Which gets us to Joe Biden's speech last night. He spoke of light 12 times, darkness 7. He disagreed with Jill, as I saw John Kasich disagree with Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden didn't say he's seen mercy and love and kindness and courage, but that we were living, quote, in a season of darkness, close quote. He waxed poetic as if he were trying to distill Reinhold Niebuhr's theses on the children of light and the children of darkness. You may recall I delivered a monologue on this topic last month, quoting Niebuhr as writing this, quote, "Our democratic civilization has been built not by children of darkness, but by children of light. It has been under attack by the children of darkness, by the moral cynics. The children of darkness are evil because they know no law beyond the self. They are wise, though evil, because they understand the power of self-interest." Let me repeat. They are wise, though evil. Niebuhr goes on to write that by contrast, quote, "the children of light are virtuous because they have some conception of a higher law beyond their own will." Then he writes the most important of things, quote, "They, the children of light, underestimate the peril of anarchy in both the national and the international community." Close quote. Hold on to that thought. Think about this. The children of darkness, the unenlightened, if you will, are about two things: the power of the will and anarchy based on moral cynicism. The children of light, the enlightened, the truly woke, who love self-evident truths and think them a singular gift from what we call the Enlightenment, what is their foible? What is their weakness? Underestimating the danger of anarchy, underestimating the children of darkness. Look to the streets today. Look to the left today. Look to the Marxist-loving professor the Smithsonian uses to teach us about race. Look to the BLM movement. Look to the assault on everything we once thought of as enlightened. Who gave us all that darkness? Donald Trump or the left? It's an important question because to listen to the Democrats this past week, you'd have thought Donald Trump plunged us into all this discontent. As if that's what any president would want to do, turn one against another so as to ensure electoral defeat. It's all a myth. It's a lie. As if there weren't massive protests at his inaugural, which, you may recall, John Lewis made a public point of refusing to attend. As if Hollywood stars didn't threaten violence against Donald Trump starting the day after his inauguration. As if the Democrats didn't weaponize the notion of impeachment some 100 times, commencing in February of 2017, before anyone ever thought to look to Ukraine. And you'll recall, of course, the Brett Kavanaugh appointment, treating then-Judge Kavanaugh as if he behaved like Bill Clinton. Michael Avenatti, anyone? The libeling and slandering of Trump on the floors of the Senate and House as a tyrant, a racist, a bigot, a fascist. This was all Trump's doing? This was how children of light behaved? All because why? Not a single thing Donald Trump did wrong, not one, but because they didn't like his policies. Which means because they didn't like the policies of 63 or more million Americans. My God, Joe Biden last night even reinvented the slur that Donald Trump praised neo-Nazis in Charlottesville. He actually said last night, it was at that moment when he heard it, the moment he decided he had to run for president. This lie has been debunked so many times it's an embarrassment the Democrats are still trying to sell it. It's a hoax. If you wanted to quote Donald Trump accurately, it's not as if the transcript from his press conference on Charlottesville doesn't exist. It does. You can go there. You can read him saying or hear him saying, quote, "I condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. The neo-Nazis and white nationalists should be condemned totally." Close quote. But Biden said is what Donald Trump said that caused him to decide to run. You know what that means? That means Joe Biden's whole candidacy is based on a lie, a hoax, a myth, ab initio. It will be interesting when and if somebody calls him out on it or shows him the transcript. As Jimmy Buffett says, live a lie and you will live to regret it. For anyone to believe Donald Trump said that about them, that there were good people on both sides that would include the neo-Nazis, that would mean he was also praising Antifa, which was there too. It's not to be believed because he didn't praise Antifa any more than he praised the supremacists or neo-Nazis. Indeed, he condemned them, literally condemned them by name. Even the left-wing PolitiFact website dismisses this now-tired charge against Donald Trump as a distortion. But there it made it into Joe Biden's keynote acceptance speech last night. But that's the way you get Trump. You have to lie. Because the truth is not your friend on this one. Sorry, Joe. It is the children of darkness and not the children of light who live and gain power by lies. All this talk about light and dark also got me to thinking about Martin Luther King Jr.'s sermon, A Knock at Midnight, where he says, quote, "It is midnight within the moral order, and at midnight colors lose their distinctiveness and become a sullen shade of gray, where moral principles lose their distinctiveness as well. For modern man, absolute right and wrong are a matter of what the majority is doing." He continues, "Midnight is the hour when men desperately seek to obey the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. According to the ethic of midnight," he continues, "the cardinal sin is to be caught and the cardinal virtue is to get by. It's all right to lie, but one must lie with real finesse. It is permissible even to hate if one so dresses his hating in the garments of love so that hating appears to be loving. The Darwinian concept of the survival of the fittest has been substituted by a philosophy of the survival of the slickest," King would go on to say. And he would conclude by saying, "This mentality has brought a tragic breakdown of moral standards, and the midnight of moral degeneration deepens." Couldn't help but think of that as I watched the last 4 nights of what was trying to be sold to us. Sometimes hate dresses up as love, and sometimes love dresses up as hate. If you doubt me on this, go watch a Trump rally and listen to its attendees. Then go to a left-wing rally of any kind. The picture is a study in contrasts. The first is a true love affair with America. The second is a display of dystopian anger. But to listen to how the Democrats deal with this, it itself becomes a study in confusion. They tell us we are a country of systemic racism. And yet Joe Biden tells us last night, quote, "Americans are a good and decent people." You must believe both, I suppose. Dickens could get away with it. I'm not sure Biden can. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief. It was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. For the Democrats and the left, depending on the audience, one or the other is absolutely true. Yet, of course, we the sentient know that can't really be. As I put it last month, there was a word for what the children of darkness promote. It's the word Reinhold Niebuhr uses, anarchy. It's the opposite of enlightenment. It is the opposite of wisdom. And it's not something that threatens to return us to the cave, as Plato puts it. It's something that threatens to turn us back into cavemen. Don't underestimate it. Learn from Niebuhr. Learn from good history books. Learn to know what it means for adults to teach rot and for political hucksters to speak wretch. And don't underestimate the danger. A war can be taking place even if people want to hide from it or deny it. There was once a famous book titled While England Slept, after all. Let's not see a book while America slept. Wake up. Be enlightened. Be woke as it was originally intended. And not as the anarchists have perverted the term. There's too much perversion already, and it never does, end well. The American people may take socialism, as Upton Sinclair once observed. They just won't take the label. To stave it off, if I may paraphrase Whittaker Chambers, we must ensure that our faith in America and God is at least as strong as the neo-Marxists' faith is in themselves. I'm Seth Leibson. The lines are open.